Alright, guys, welcome back to Basketball Fan, where we break down the real stories behind the game and talk about what's actually happening, not just what people want you to hear. So let me ask you something right from the start. How did that feel hearing it come directly from the top of the league? Because for the first time, the WNBA commissioner finally said out loud what fans have been saying for months, and honestly, what many people have been thinking even longer. Caitlin Clark deserves the credit. And that moment? It wasn't just another routine comment or a throwaway line in an interview. It felt bigger than that. It felt like a shift. For the longest time, it almost felt like the league, and not just the league, but people around it, were doing everything possible to avoid saying her name when it came to the explosion of attention the WNBA has been getting. You heard the conversations. You saw the interviews. Analysts would talk about growth, about momentum, about the game evolving, but they danced around the obvious. Players would mention the league gaining visibility, but rarely point to the most visible reasons staring everyone in the face. Even voices connected to the Players' Association seemed careful, almost calculated, in how they addressed the surge. It created this strange disconnect where the fans clearly saw what was happening, but the official narrative lagged behind. Because let's be honest here, fans aren't blind. People watching the games, filling arenas, tuning into broadcasts, and flooding social media knew exactly where a huge chunk of that momentum was coming from. The sold-out arenas weren't random. The record-breaking TV ratings didn't just appear overnight. The non-stop media coverage didn't magically generate itself. This wasn't luck. This wasn't coincidence. This was the result of something, and more importantly, someone building energy over time and carrying it into the league at the perfect moment. Caitlin Clark didn't just arrive in the WNBA as another talented rookie. She entered as a phenomenon already in motion. What she built during her college career wasn't normal. It wasn't typical hype. It was a movement. Night after night, game after game, she turned college basketball into must-watch television. People who had never followed women's basketball before suddenly had a reason to tune in. Casual fans became invested. Die-hard fans became even more passionate. And when she made the jump to the professional level, that energy didn't disappear, it followed her. It expanded. It evolved. So when the commissioner finally acknowledged her impact, it felt like more than just giving credit where it's due. It felt like the league catching up to reality. And not just a little bit, fully stepping into it. Saying, without hesitation, that Caitlin Clark has been a huge part of the growth of the league, that she's not only an incredible player, but also an ambassador for the game, that she's handling the pressure and spotlight in a way that elevates everything around her. That matters. Those words carry weight, especially when they come from the top. But let's not pretend that acknowledgement came out of nowhere. It didn't. There's been pressure building for months. Big voices in the sports world have been asking the same question over and over again. Why is the league so hesitant to recognize what's right in front of everyone? Why avoid saying the obvious? Why hold back when the fans are already fully aware of what's driving this surge? And eventually, that pressure reached a point where it couldn't be ignored anymore. The conversation kept growing. The evidence kept stacking up. Every sold-out arena, every spike in viewership, every viral highlight added to the same narrative. And now, finally, that narrative is being acknowledged at the highest level. But here's where things get even more interesting, and this is something we really need to talk about here on Basketball Fan, because as exciting as that acknowledgement is, it also signals something else. This is where the real work begins. It's one thing to have a moment. Another thing to sustain it. During that conversation, a key question was raised, and it's the kind of question that goes beyond just one player. It's about the future. It's about whether the league can continue building stars, not just rely on one. Because while Caitlin Clark has undeniably been a massive force in driving attention, long-term success depends on something bigger. It depends on creating multiple household names, players that fans recognize, follow, and connect with on a deeper level. And to the commissioner's credit, that's something she addressed directly. The idea that the league needs household names, meaningful games, and a structure that supports star building is not new, but hearing it emphasized now, at this moment, carries a different kind of significance. The league is evolving. The season is expanding. Opportunities are increasing. And with that comes the responsibility to turn rising talent into recognizable, marketable stars. Because here's the reality, Caitlin Clark may have accelerated the growth, but she's not alone in the talent pool. There's a wave of players coming, players who have the potential to shape the next era of the league. The upcoming draft class alone is packed with names that fans are already starting to follow closely. Players from powerhouse programs, athletes who have built their own college legacies, and international talent bringing a global dimension to the game. And that global aspect? That's another major piece of this puzzle. The league isn't just growing domestically, it's expanding its reach worldwide. The percentage of international players has increased significantly over the years, and that trend is only continuing. That means more diversity in playing styles, more global interest, and more opportunities to connect with fans across different countries and cultures. It also means the WNBA is starting to mirror something we've already seen succeed at a massive level, the global model of the NBA. A league where talent comes from everywhere, where stars resonate beyond borders, where the game itself becomes a universal language. And when you combine that with the rising generation of young players, those under 18 prospects that insiders are already hyping as the next wave, you start to see the bigger picture. This isn't just about one player changing the game. It's about a moment opening the door for an entire era of growth. But let's bring it back for a second, because none of this takes away from the original point. It actually reinforces it. Caitlin Clark's impact didn't happen in isolation. It sparked something. It created momentum. It forced conversations. It pushed the league into a new level of visibility. And now that momentum needs to be carried forward by the next group of stars, the next set of storylines, the next evolution of the game. That's the challenge. And honestly, it's also the opportunity. Because if the league can successfully build on this moment, if it can take the attention, the excitement, and the influx of new fans and turn that into long-term engagement, then what we're seeing right now might just be the beginning. Not the peak. Not the highlight. Just the start. And that's why this acknowledgement matters so much. It's not just about giving credit. It's about setting the tone for what comes next. It's about being honest about what's driving growth so the league can build on it effectively. It's about embracing the reality instead of avoiding it. So yeah, hearing that from the commissioner? That wasn't just a comment. That was a signal. A signal that the conversation has shifted. That the truth is out in the open. That the league is ready, at least more than before, to lean into what's working and use it as a foundation for the future. And here on Basketball Fan, that's exactly what we're going to keep breaking down. Because this story? It's far from over. It's evolving in real time. And if you're paying attention, you're watching history unfold, not just in terms of one player's impact, but in how an entire league grows, adapts, and steps into a new era. All right, guys, welcome back to Basketball Fan, and let's really talk about this for a second, because I keep hearing the same line over and over again. People keep saying, well, obviously it wasn't just Caitlin Clark. And honestly, no, stop. Let's just be real for once. It was Caitlin Clark. You don't have to dance around it anymore, and you don't have to soften the truth just to make everyone feel comfortable. What we've watched over the last year is crystal clear. The surge in attention, the spike in ratings, the sold-out arenas, and the non-stop conversation surrounding the league, a massive part of that explosion traces back to one player. And saying that doesn't take anything away from anyone else, it just acknowledges reality. Now look, that doesn't mean there isn't talent across the league, because there absolutely is. Players like Aya Wilson can hoop at an elite level, and Kelsey Plum has proven herself as one of the most dynamic guards in the game. The WNBA is filled with high-level talent, no question about it. But being talented and being the face of a league are two completely different things, and that's where the conversation really shifted this past year. What frustrated a lot of fans early on wasn't the talent, it was how the league handled the moment. The WNBA had a once-in-a-generation wave of attention coming straight from what Caitlin Clark built during her time at Iowa, and the league just didn't look fully prepared to capitalize on it. At times, the officiating became a major talking point. Games felt overly physical, almost chaotic, with contact levels that seemed out of control and inconsistent whistles from referees. For new viewers tuning in, many of them watching the WNBA for the first time, that wasn't always the best introduction. It created confusion, frustration, and a sense that the product on the court didn't match the level of excitement surrounding it. And on top of that, the pressure on Clark herself was intense. The spotlight was massive, the expectations were sky-high, and the criticism came from every direction. There were debates, narratives, and even moments where jealousy and competitiveness seemed to spill over into the public conversation. And all of that? It landed on a rookie. But despite everything, she kept showing up. Night after night, she performed, delivered, and continued to bring attention to the league in a way that no one else was doing at that level. That consistency is what made the difference. It wasn't just hype, it was sustained impact. And now, it feels like something is finally starting to shift. When WNBA Commissioner Cathy Engelbert acknowledged Clark's impact publicly, it felt like the league was finally facing reality. Maybe it wasn't easy to say out loud, maybe it wasn't something everyone wanted to highlight at first, but the truth is the truth, Caitlin Clark changed the trajectory of the WNBA. You can see it everywhere. People who never watched WNBA games before are now tuning in. Casual sports fans are paying attention. Media outlets that barely covered the league in the past are now giving it consistent attention. That kind of shift doesn't just happen randomly. It's driven by something powerful, something undeniable. And what makes this moment even more important is what's coming next. Because while Clark may have been the spark, there's an entire wave of young talent ready to build on that momentum. Players like Juju Watkins, Hannah Hidalgo, and Olivia Miles are bringing a style of basketball that fans love. It's fast-paced, fearless, and full of highlight moments. It's the kind of game that connects with younger audiences and keeps people engaged. And the interesting part? A lot of these players grew up watching Caitlin Clark. They've been influenced by her style, her confidence, her willingness to take risks and push the tempo. That influence is already shaping the next generation of the sport. So this isn't just about one player dominating headlines, it's about a shift in the entire landscape of women's basketball. Clark lit the match, and now the fire is spreading. The numbers back it up too. When she's on the court, ratings jump. Arenas fill up. Teams literally move games to bigger venues just to meet the demand. And when she's not playing, you can see the difference. Viewership drops. Attendance shifts. That contrast tells you everything you need to know about what real impact looks like. So yes, the WNBA has incredible players across the board, and that should always be recognized. But right now, when it comes to attention, growth, and shaping the future direction of the league, one name sits right at the center of it all, Caitlin Clark. And here on Basketball Fan, we're going to keep calling it exactly how it is, no filters, no sugarcoating, just real basketball talk. Now I want to hear from you. Do you think the league is finally giving her the recognition she deserves, or do you feel like it took way too long for that conversation to happen? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and if you enjoyed the breakdown, make sure you like, subscribe, and share the channel.